Hello everyone and welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. Today we have a match teaming up once again with GrimReaper, who's recently been promoted to Sergeant, and both of us are playing USSR decks against, I believe there's a South African and a West German player. So the map is Paddy Field, which is quite a classic for 2v2s and 1v1s, that whole thing, and I am pushing up towards center and Boris, while Grim is headed over toward Fetter and Gregory. So most of his forces tend to be more mechanized than motorized, so we have, I guess there's a BTR-80A there as well. But infantry and BMP-3s, we have a couple T-72 BUs, as well as a heavy command tank. In the meantime, I have capped center, and I'm sending infantry through the woods here, trying to get up to Boris as well, so BTR-90s carrying 2 squads of Spetsnaz GRU, while an MI-2 scout helicopter goes up just to see what is around, and we do spot some Oryxes dropping off something, which is probably going to be South African Special Forces or SASF, but nope, it looks like it's in fact BOCOP 90, which is a bit of a weird choice. I'm not entirely sure if I agree with that myself. ILO-2 bomber trying to get a cheeky kill on a couple of Ruakats, but I do end up losing that as it's taken out by an F4F KWS. But I do have a nice interceptor coming in, and that kills the KWS, so we did lose a bomber, but we made up for it a little bit by taking down some of our opponent's air defenses. So, meanwhile, in Boris, there's a lot of infantry here. Most of it is going to be cheap Motostrelki and cheap empty LBVs, but we do also have a backbone of Spetsnaz GRU in the BTR-90s, just as a bit of, me expecting this position to get shelled pretty heavily. Spotting Ratzel 90 FSVs is another problem, as it looks like the South African player is pushing out of Sheridan into Gregory in full force. So we have Conqueror's teams coming online, and we have BMP-3s sparring with the, Conqueror's team for the Milan teams, I guess, for the enemy. And meanwhile, my own infantry bite off a little bit more than they can chew, so right now we're doing okay, but pretty soon that's going to turn, and GrimReaper is trying to get his T-72s out of range of both bombers and ATGM teams. Meanwhile, eyes on a couple of Rubakat ZA-35s, and this is a weird sort of thing, double stack. So 60 points each, of course very expensive to double stack, it doesn't really help their performance much either. And a quad stack of Ruakot 105s is something I haven't seen in quite a while. It seems like maybe this player is a little bit on the newer end of things and just trying to bum rush everything to a single town position. Of course we do also have some recon infantry headed over from Spiffy, who is the West German player, and a whole mass of infantry, including Panzergrenadier, which will be able to rip right through my Motostrelki, headed down into the forest. Meanwhile, there's another F4F KWS, this is often done, it's just circling, defending, trying to get the first shot on anything I might send their way. In the meantime, however, Conqueror's team's doing pretty well for my friend Grim here, and we have a bomber coming in, so he saw the high concentration of troops and decided it would be really nice if that all went away. So, there it is. High explosive, just demolishing that entire position. Of course, the armor will survive, so the Ruakats and Oliphants did survive, but the infantry very much did not, and I'm wishing I had the same thing over here, as there's just a whole mass of infantry killing a couple of my Motostrelki squads. I'm moving more over to plug the gap, but they won't be able to hold on their own. So I do have a BMP-T on the back. I'm moving up my Motostrelki and BMP-3s, also trying to reinforce the eastern woods in Gregory. And my Su-27PU does bait out a single missile from something, not the F4F, but there is, it looks like, radar air defense over in Anna. Okay, so things are settling out a little bit, and I'm calling up a couple of Jalos for fire support. I'm thinking to myself also, it might be a good idea to get a Book M1. Now, I'm not best at using these things. I tended to prefer Tungushka Ms to Book M1s because, fighter defense was something that I felt relatively confident with, but I've been advised that this is a very good idea, and it certainly does have the range against helicopters to make that seem like, yeah, definitely a good idea. So, in the meantime, however, Dragoner are sparring with Motostrelki. This is sort of the wet noodle contest of regular line infantry, and I'm calling out an Uragan to try to make a difference. So, the basic idea here is, I know that my opponent will have lots of stuff in these woods. I've already fought some of it, and, well, why fight it man-to-man if I can instead use indirect forces? Probably should have had something like that called out to begin with, but I was a little bit slow on the uptake there. In the meantime, BMP-3s trying to get a couple ATGM shots off on Ruakot 105s, but no great success there, and now smoke is coming in, covering this town as Parmalan's attempt to recapture it, and just sort of solidify here against the USSR forces. There has been a third edition, so BOCOP 90 moving up as well, and you can definitely see that Blue 4 is trying to push through this section of the woods. Now, I have seen mortar fire be used very effectively in this sort of prolonged skirmish. I didn't have one at the ready at this time. I am bringing one in soon, but autogun fire coming in, and I just want to show you guys this. We're going to go to the neutral perspective just to see exactly how much this does. So we have Panzergren 90, we have Panzergren 90, Dragoner, Bokop, Dragoner. They're all reasonably healthy, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, well, 6 double squads and a single squad of infantry, and the autogun is opening fire. Let's see what all that does. First shot comes in, lots of stunned, already a single unit dead, and more men killed besides. The other Panzergren are just dying in droves, and I didn't know that the autogun was capable of this sort of just mass devastation. So we started off that strike with 6 double squads and a single squad. Now we have 2 double squads remaining, and 1, 2, 3, 4 single squads that are mostly dead. So a single man in the Panzergren unit, 2 men in the Panzergren unit there as well, and it's just, that was pretty vicious. Had I known it would have that effect, I would have followed up in the attack there more than I did. I didn't really realize that it was quite that effective. I was expecting, you know, some suppression, a little bit of a discouragement for massing troops there, but man, I really liked what I got. In the meantime, a Ruavolk, very expensive helicopter, but very capable, moving up, trying to aid in Gregory as we are sort of inching forward here, and Grim is trying to take that ground. In the meantime, I've called out a command vehicle, and I'm attempting to cap the back end of Boris, seeing the infantry retreat after that autogun strike. Has told me, yeah, well, okay, we might be able to do something here, and we might be able to secure this site. I think Boris favors attacking from this direction just because there's so much more woods on the southern side of it than there is on the northern, and CV locations are very predictable here, so you'll often see something in this tree line or in the very back here, and not much else besides, because, you know, should the infantry line fall in the front, it's a very simple, easy push. In the meantime, however, there is smoke coming down, and that tells me that the South African player, well, actually it looks like the West German player as well, will be trying to push into the woods, probably hoping to kill the VDV and Skretchits and sort of clear this area for themselves. It is a very nice position to hold for that side of the map because it gives vision on the side of Feder, as well as discouraging weapons teams and things in the trees here. So VDV fire does discourage that a little bit, but there's a lot of Fallschirmjäger, and these guys are very, very capable. Fallschirmjäger 90, anyway, some of the most deadly infantry in the entire game. That is going to be a problem. But BMP-3s are opening up, and we have another bomber coming in, another one of those Su-24Ms with just absolutely devastating numbers of bombs. The Fallschirmjäger are mostly dying. We have the Dragoner as well, mostly dead. Actually, I think some of the tanks died as well. It was a little bit difficult to see. And we also have, I was trying to reload the autogun as quickly as I could, but that thing takes a little while to get going. So yeah, I'm calling out, yeah, I'm going to RD this position as soon as the Uragan is ready to fire, because there's even more. So there's a Leopard 2A5, there's a Logim, there's Rattle 90s depositing more infantry, and it seems like this is a major push that we have to defend against, or it will go through this whole section. Now, we already have gotten pretty good value. I mean, that single bombing run probably did shift things in our favor pretty significantly. But that doesn't mean that we can just rest on our laurels. So losing positions on the battlefield can often lead to lost fights afterward, which is never a good thing. T-72 BUs are moving up to support, but that's direct fire is going to be less effective against infantry than it would be against tanks, so only 3 HE damage, I believe, on the BUs. No, 4, actually, so that's not terrible. But a Milan team is going to discourage that a little bit. Let's see if the BUs can get revenge. No, okay, so there is a Logim as well, nearly killing a BU, and the Arty should be coming in. Yes, there it is, from the Uragan right there. So let's see what happens to those poor Mechimp as these rockets, I guess, touch down. It looks like it was shot a little over to the right-hand side compared to the Mechimp, so they are just mostly stunned. But that still does buy valuable time, and yeah, I mean, one rocket gets close enough that 10, fully half the Mechimp die in that fight. So one of the BUs has been lost, however. That is quite a bad thing, and we do have eyes on a Logim still, but, well, very few tools left to kill it. Weapons jam on the Rattle 90 coincidentally means that they just run up into VDV, who unfortunately do die before they get there, and we have kind of lost these woods, although it was at great cost to our opponents. Still, that could lead to them capping Gregory and giving us a very hard time. So an M41A1 scout tank, I guess, tankette, maybe 10-point vehicle, over there in the west, and Grim is doing some sneaky business here, trying to outflank, I guess, their unit spawn, if that's a thing. Peace Run coming in, probably looking for, I don't know, I would have assumed the T-72. Let's see what he's going for. Yep, no. Mona SVK, really. But my 27 PU comes in, and we do get the kill there, so that was pretty nice. Peace Rhine is down. But we do need to shore up this location. So Tunguska M should be firing soon, but the Ruovalk is just being merciless, killing BMP3s, looking for that T-72. Grim's moving his Tunguska to try and get clear vision, and we get a couple shots off there. Let's see, a couple more should be able to manage that, let alone, firing the missiles off that Tunguska M as well. Very deadly sackless missiles. And now I have some, I believe these are Vasilesks. Yes, Vasilesks shooting in. I love their rate of fire. It's so tremendously high for the point cost because they fire several times at once. So that's just 2 Vasilesks, and I mean, it's a lot of mortar shots coming in. It also makes them really wonderful for smoking positions, which can be accomplished really quickly just because of the high volume of shots in a relatively short amount of time. And we have eyes on a lot of things here in Gregory, a lot of armor. I mean, here's the thing, right? So we could move in, we could do a bombing run, cluster bombing run maybe, or ATGM planes, things like that. Probably going to be one-way trips, and it's a little bit taxing during the game to do that as well, because every expensive unit that you buy that's really specialized means that you don't have those tools available in other locations should they be needed. So Grim is just relying on a C-72 here to get a couple side shots, so Ruhrkant 105s are going down, but we'll see if it's fast enough, because the South African infantry and forces are on the move here. T-72BU keeping up that rate of fire, but if one of those Login or Leopard 2A4s is able to open fire, T-72 is going to have a very bad day. In the meantime, I'm preparing for a push through Boris, so I have more Motostrelki and MTLBVs moving forward. I know it's a bit spammy, but, that is playing the Soviet Union. Su-25Ts coming around, getting a couple shots off. We'll see if he can circle. Lots of Sal-H missiles on those guys. It's just a matter of how it's used, and we have infantry moving forward once more into the very damaged Dragoner, Panzergren, and other things like that. Fresh Monostrelki moving up, the other Monostrelki being cycled back, and it does look like the Logam was killed, but unfortunately down goes the Su-25T. So, bit of a double-edged sword there. Not necessarily the best. Uragan coming in again and just killing even more infantry, stunning everything in the back there. And now we have smoke coming in from the Vasilesks trying to cover this advance, as I am going to be moving infantry up and MT-LBVs up, trying to get through to the town. So encountering lots of Panzergren in the woods is a little bit difficult, but now we have VDV there as well. So these guys with their shock training and their RPK-74s are going to be able to dish out quite a bit of damage, particularly because all these infantry are stunned still, well, not stunned, but panicked still, from that Uragan fire. Unfortunately, our VDV are taking pretty heavy fire, walking into a concave, basically, but the smoke is doing pretty well, and we're getting things relatively far forward, so we have Strezhits as well, but we find right there a Leopard 2A1 anchoring that formation. 100-point tank, more than enough AP power at this range to just give me a really bad day. Also, infantry in the town is sort of fending us off a little bit as things stagnate in Gregory, and we are unable to quite take back those trees, but it's not over yet. We still have a lot of game left to play, and Monostrelki moving over, trying to wipe out the rest of these infantry. I'm also trying to move something down, and lo and behold, there's a command tank. So a Leopard 2 called in by the West German player, 170 points right there, and we'll see if the Motostrelki can get it with their cheap little RPG-7s, and of course they do. So command vehicle killed, Boris is recapped for Red 4 anyway, and I mean, things are going kind of okay. So Motostrelki are dying in the open, MTLBVs are dying in the open, but I'm trying to get infantry up and around to shoot at those Martyr 2s and Leopard 2A1s. Very, very powerful units, but nothing can survive that sort of persistent side shots from dedicated AP weapons. There is a command vehicle coming in from, it looks like that's a Rover BV, so that's going to be the South African player. And Gregory is capped, so we do stop our +1 lead, which had been pretty consistent up to that point. BMP PT moving up, but a Leopard 2A1, and actually an automatic stealing the kill there is going to give him a very bad day. However, that Leopard 2A1 is now taking more fire. Now, if this was anything but Motostrelki, that probably would have worked out to our benefit, but unfortunately, just RPG-7 are not very good at all. But Spetsnaz Gru now moving up, and the West German player does surrender as this position gets overwhelmed. Spetsnaz Gru and VDV do have much better anti-tank weapons, so 20 AP power on the Spetsnaz Gru, and I believe 24 with 70% accuracy on the VDV-90, so that's going to give armor in and around this area a very, very bad day. Grim is moving forward, and it looks like an artillery strike also going in, killing that Panzerkampfwagen, or sorry, not Panzerkampfwagen, that's the West German, killing the Buffalo BV command vehicle from South Africa, so it didn't actually survive very long at all. That was from fire from these Malkas. 10 HE power, pretty good, pretty devastating punch. Wodagun is getting ready to fire again, but I think that's actually a problem because I hadn't expected this push to be as successful as it was, so I might be shooting myself here real soon. But we do get Spetsnaz Gru forward, and now we're going to be chewing into the gooey bits in the back line, as there is an FRP Roland 3. That should be getting shot here any second, if not already. I'm a little confused why it's still alive. Really? It takes you that long to shoot. Okay, down it goes. And we have some reinforcements. Dragoner coming in. Now these are Spiffy's units. He has surrendered, so I think they were just left on the field and now controlled by the South African player. So I'm moving up some more infantry and a BMPT, attempting to halt those reinforcements before they can get into a better defensive position in the woods. In the meanwhile, big tanks, leopards moving forward, and my T-80UM reinforcements on the side is going to have a very nice time with that. Leopard 2A5 receives the first shot, shooting back, and we'll see who gets the kill, and it's in fact the T-80UM on the other side, getting a nice side shot as that 2A5 was advancing. Motostrelki died pretty quickly to that firing concave, but now the BMPT gets to show his worth as Spetsnaz Gru take out an automatic. BMPT opens up, of course, with the autocannon and the AGS-17, so those frag rounds are going to stun a lot of infantry. We're sitting just out of their range as well, so they can't even counterfire us. And here comes a Yak-38 bomber, not one, but two, coming in to crush those reserves. So down go the infantry, down go the transports BMPT, moving up even more, but we have some problems on the horizon as these look like big tanks on that side, and I'm not sure the BMPT should continue this, although, I mean, snagging even a 5-point kill when and where you can is always a good thing, and always a nice little perk, I suppose. VDV, however, in an elongated fight with Oryx, is very much not that. I was thinking to myself, you know, they've already gotten their value. I was hoping that I could kill one or two of these 25-point transports, just to push things, just to remove even that many more of our opponent's tools. However, these are login, and that does get marked during the game, so I'm telling Grim, you know, we've identified these two really big tanks. Bombers coming in, Cheetah E and a Cheetah D2. That has the Sal H bombs I've never really had good luck with myself, but here they come, 1 and 2, one after another. I think that was a little overkill for a single remaining MTLBV, and we will get some revenge there as both planes go down to ASFs. Cheetah C, however, is trying to answer, and let's see if he gets a hit. Yes, one on the PU, but the second missile is too late, and that Cheetah C does not actually achieve his strategic goals. So now Malka's firing in again at the Parmelan 2s, and I swear, sometimes infantry in towns, they take damage off things that you don't expect, and they don't take damage off things you do expect. SU-25T coming in, let's see if we can get the Logim shots on the way. One Logim down, and unable to get the second. Let's see if he can turn around and get that. So now most of the AA net has been taken out. Of course, some of that by infantry on the eastern side, some of that also just doesn't seem to have been in place. And a rear shot on that second Logim will secure the SU-25T 2 kills, over 300 points, 310 points to be specific, killed by that single plane in that single run. In the meantime, Scredgets are moving up, and they will be the proper answer to things like Oryx's. But we have a couple Oliphants moving over, and this game is very, very quickly turning into a bit of a thorough loss, I think is the polite way of putting it, for the remaining Blue 4 player. Of course, SASF 90 are formidable, and I mean, the thing about playing once your ally has given up is now you get double the income, so you can buy pretty much anything he wants and put it all in one place. Caspier K cards, of course, extraordinarily effective fire support, and my Scredgets are going to have a really bad day. Also backing up by that Oliphant. Optimum is just going to push my IFVs back completely if they even survive, which only one of them does. Panic's not really going to be useful for quite a while. And my only hope at this point to take out this position is to rely on VDV Spetsnaz Gru getting side shots, but he's avoiding the woods, and the second my Motostrelki engage infantry, they get absolutely shredded. So this is, I mean, it's not great, I'll say that much. But in the meantime, Grim is finally pushing up into this town. There isn't really much in Gregory left to stop him, so hopefully we can push forward through that position. Jalo's, of course, moving up on the far side, trying to get a couple good shots. And replacement Roland 3 is spotted somehow. I really actually don't know how that was seen. Maybe by the Spetsnaz Gru right here? That could be. That's a really far spotting distance. I Didn't think this thing... size is only medium. I'm kind of surprised by that. Yak-38 is coming in again, but of course SASF do have Stinger missiles. That is a dangerous mission for them, but the SASF don't open fire because they weren't attack moved, they were force moved. But the force move does save them, because only 4 of them died to that bombing run. Of course, they are stunned, panicked, but only briefly, and 2 full squads are, of course, completely fine. So that didn't have the answer I was looking for, unfortunately, and I was beginning to panic at this point that I would not be able to hold this position. Scratch it moving up, and now we get a little bit of a firing concave, but those Caspier K-Cars are just so incredibly deadly, it's going to be a problem. SU-25T coming in again does kill the AA piece that was spotted by the Spetsnaz crew, and now the west side of this whole formation is starting to fall. SU-25T also coming in and saving my behind here with Caspier K-Cars, of course going down to those missiles, those Salish missiles, incredibly quickly, and now my remaining Motostrelki and VDV should be able to do okay here, as well as a BMPT moving up, but here comes not 1, but 2 bombers, actually 3 bombers. So a couple high explosive bombers and the Cheetah D2 with the Sal H, 4 bombers, 5 bombers, and the Blue 4 team really does not want this to survive. However, this draws the entire air wing answering from the Soviet Union, and I think we got 2, maybe 3 of those bombers to never come back again. Meanwhile, the BMPT is the only survivor, and that Carver, actually 2 of them, are a little too late to answer our charge. However, they do get shot at by KA-52, and let's see what happens to these brave planes. So Book M1 is still off trying to dodge Seed. It should get turned on real soon, I think. OSA's firing in, but they aren't going to be able to really kill a Carver. No, I actually missed the bus there with the OSA. I started the book, but the OSA's 30 point, a double stack of 30 point AA takes down a Carver that stayed there too long. Now the Book M1 is finally online, shooting at that other Carver, but actually misses not once, not twice, but actually only twice, and the Carver's stunned. I unfortunately lack the tools to keep killing him. However, Cheriton has been T-capped by Grim, who is pushing forward through to the enemy spawn and home zone in Dimitri, and that is pretty much going to be game over right there. So there's about another minute or 2 of just wanton slaughter, and unfortunately, because I showed the neutral perspective, the kills and losses at the end of the game aren't going to be all that relevant. Suffice to say, they're weighted pretty heavily in the Soviet Union's favor. So that's all we've got for today. Thank you all for hanging around. We'll see you again real soon.